Everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so I'm gonna try to not make this video too long. I have cut down on my to be read stack, so I've read this much. I still have this much to go, and so I did want to talk about some of the comics here, so I'll do that, and then I'll also show you some of the comic books I got this week. So let's do it this way. Um, Not sure if I talked about this on camera. This is Bitch Planet 9. It's back from a long hiatus. I'm kind of enjoying it. I kind of like it. The story's starting to pick up again, and the plot's starting to move forward, so neato keen. This is Alters number 2 by Paul Jenkins, and the art is by Layla Diaz. I think I probably need to explain this a little bit. Basically, the premise is so there are these people in the world who are starting to manifest superpowers or whatever, and they call them alters, right? And there's this guy, Matterman, who I guess works for the government or something like that, and he's kind of this flamboyant prick, and his whole job is to get the alters under control and bring them in and stuff like that. But the way he does it is extremely violent. There's lots of like collateral damage and stuff like that. Now, the main character in the story is this guy named Charlie, and he's an alter, but his other secret is he's also trans. So he was born a male, but he dresses like a female. And if I'm understanding the story correctly, when he becomes his superhero alter ego is female, and he doesn't, it's not really part of his powers or anything like that. He just, puts on makeup and stuff like that. So it's a pretty interesting story that could have been kind of gimmicky, but I think Paul Jenkins does a pretty good job of setting up the superhero aspect. Oh, I probably should mention there's also like this group of maybe scientists who are out to help the alters, but maybe they've got a secret agenda as well. So, but like I said, it's pretty interesting the way that Paul Jenkins has set up the kind of science fiction-y superhero aspects of the story, as well as treating the main character, with a bit of respect. So, not a perfect comic book, didn't blow me away, but it is pretty interesting. And I think it's actually pretty groundbreaking, in its own sort of way. Okay. Finally got around to reading Strange Fruit number 4. Not a bad comic book, but it ended pretty much exactly the way I expected it to end. And I've mentioned this before. I don't think the kind of criticism and attacks that this comic came over, like, oh, how dare Mark Waid do a story on racism and stuff like that. I don't think a lot of that was really warranted. Having said that, the story is kind of, it just suffers from being kind of by the numbers. You read it and you feel you've seen this sort of thing before. So it's okay, not bad, just I've seen it before. All right. Betty and Veronica number 2 by Adam Hughes. The first one I thought was just okay. But by the time I got to the end of this issue, it kind of won me over. Obviously, the art is great, but I thought before that a lot of the humor was really forced and was trying really, 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 really hard to be funny. It just wasn't that funny. But the thing is, like I said, it won me over. I remember seeing some quote somewhere where Adam Hughes said that he was trying to, with this comic, he's trying to do kind of a Saved by the Bell uh, type of approach. And you know what? It probably should be Saved by the Bell. It's Betty and Veronica. It should be a teen sitcom or whatever. And like I said, just the silly ass charm of the comic won me over by the end of it. So, okay. Motor Girl number 1. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube in the comic book community talking about this comic book. Yeah, I kind of dig it. Basically, is this woman who is this ex-service person, and she is, running some junkyard or whatever, and there's a little bit, I probably shouldn't give it away, but there's some really interesting things going on with her and her gorilla companion. So I'll just let you read that. There's some other things going on with UFOs, and some things may be real and some things maybe they're not so real. So very interesting setup. Uh, let's hear. Six Pack of Dog Wilder #3. I want to reread this, but it's actually pretty funny. Basically, there's some funny stuff going on as far as the two main characters, you know, having their wacky misadventures. John Constantine appears and he's wearing like a space helmet. He's got a ray gun and he's got a flying surfboard. And he's kind of like miffed because of all the reboots and revamps going on in DC. He's not too sure where he belongs. He used to be one type of character. Now he's not sure if he's supposed to be a superhero or what, so he's kind of pissed about the whole thing. There is some poignant stuff going on where Dog Wielder gets to meet his. He goes back to kind of reconnect with his former family or whatever. And that's actually, although it's kind of funny, it's also pretty. It's kind of poignant too. So, okay. I think I've been talking about Wonder Woman before. Really enjoying the year one stuff a little bit. The whole thing is pretty good, but I like the year one part a little bit better. Probably because of Nicola Scott, and I think Greg Rucker really won me over as far as retelling of the origin. I'm a little bit burned out on retelling origin stories for these really popular characters, but like I said, Greg Rucker actually succeeded and pulling it off, doing a different take and making it work. So yeah, kudos. Apollo and Midnighter #2. Um, don't want to give away too much. It appears Apollo may have died, but there's of course a lot of other stuff going on, and yeah, I really don't want to say too much, but it's really cool, really interesting, really intriguing. I like the art. There's a character. There's a reappearance of an older character. I got to kind of look up, but I think this other character might have been an earlier gay character from DC. Extrano or something. I might have that wrong. It's something. Maybe I should have looked it up before I started the video. But I know it's some older character from like the '80s or something. Kind of shows up in this comic to kind of help Midnighter out. But yeah, some really interesting stuff going on with you know, other worlds and other realities and other worlds and stuff like that. Interesting bad guy shows up. So yeah, I'm really into this. Uh, Oh, really like this Mighty Thor, or I'm sorry, Unworthy Thor. So this is Return of Man Thor. I hadn't been reading the female Thor comic, and I wasn't reading Man Thor before you know they made the switch or whatever. I had heard good things about it, about Greg, about Jason Aaron's writing, but it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get to it, or maybe I'll pick it up one of these days. But now the first issue has come out of, like I said, the return of the original Thor of Odin's son. Really interesting setup. I like that. I don't know if they've shown the character before, but I like he has like a pet goat, and the pet goat's name is Tooth Gnasher. Um, uh, Former Thor character shows up in this comic book as well. And it's just a really interesting setup. I don't think I'm giving too much away when I say the quest is going to be for him to recover a another hammer. And it's, if you know your Marvel comics, it's this hammer here is the hammer of Ultimate Thor from the Ultimate line. Well, I guess this is his comic-y stuff. I don't know if you really need to know that though, but basically, as you know, that universe no longer exists, and certain characters or certain elements from that universe, for example, Miles Morales, have now joined the 616 main universe. Um, so yeah. Anyway, interesting setup. Really like the art, so I'm really intrigued as to where this is going. Okay. Don't people realize I'm busy here? I have beer to drink. I have comic books to read. I have old records to listen to. All these interruptions. Okay, anyway. So yeah, Spider-Woman 13, start of a new arc with the Hobgoblin really, really gripping first part of the arc. I don't want to say what happens, but something really serious happens to one of the supporting characters. So yeah. I also wanted to say when they first announced the relaunch of Spider-Woman, and they said Spider-Woman was going to be this Spider-Woman was pregnant or whatever, I totally thought it was just going to be like a plot thing or a gimmick or whatever. I never thought they'd actually already follow through with it. But so far, they've really been treating the subject matter seriously. The whole idea of Jessica Drew as a superhero and a single mom. And I really find that aspect of the comic really interesting and really intriguing. So I really have to handed to Marvel for letting, I don't know whose idea it was David Hopeless or if it was, or Dennis Hopeless, or if it was the editors or whoever. But I mean, usually these things happen, and like I said, it's either a gimmick or somehow reversed. You know how it happens where characters have kids or get married or whatever. The editors all of a sudden want to undo it or whatever. But like I said, I really like that aspect of this comic. So yeah. Champions number 2. Um, just it's not a whole lot happens. The characters go on kind of a camping trip to kind of get to know each other. They talk about their powers, they talk about their personalities, and it's pretty interesting seeing them kind of interact. I thought it was pretty decent. It was well written. And it looks like Mark Waid is going to kind of go for that kind of old school Silver Age, Bronze Age, superheroes as do-gooders um, approach. So I'm pretty interested in seeing how that's going to play out. I'm thinking of maybe dropping the main Avengers title, and this will probably end up taking its place. So there you go. Comic book that doesn't get talked about a whole lot anymore. Scarlet Witch. This is Scarlet Witch number 12. This one's interesting because it has to do with Wanda going back and talking to the woman who raised her and trying to get a little bit more information on her origin and her true family and stuff like that. It's actually pretty funny because I did watch Howard Mouse's recent video talking about the Yesterday Quest, which was Avengers 180, roughly 181 to about 184, no, 186, I think. 186, 187, something like that. And yeah, that was the story that kind of gave the secret origin of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and revealed that they were Magneto's kids. And of course, that as people, modern comic book readers know, that has now recently been undone. So yeah, like I said, it's just kind of interesting to like watch his video and then read this comic because this comic does have references to those comics, that other story and whatnot. So, but yeah, all right. Avengers 1.1. This is kind of a retro story, fit into the days of Cap's Kooky Quartet. Uh, I think it's pretty. It's okay. It's not a terribly written story. It's not a groundbreaking written story. It's an okay story. I'll give it one more issue, and I'll decide if I want to keep up with it or not. So there's that. All right. So now I'll show you the comics that I bought today. All right. So I got Cyborg number 5. I think I've already kind of talked about this comic. On one hand, it's okay. I kind of like what some of the plot elements are and sort of things that they're doing with the supporting cast and stuff like that. So it's doing stuff that I want to see, but the comic just seems really kind of bland. So I'll just finish with this first arc, and I'll probably drop it after that. Reborn number 2. I kind of like this cover. This cover is by, who's this cover by? This cover is Care Andrews or Carrie Andrews. I kind of like that sort of pseudo old school Frank Miller approach. Jessica Jones, number 2, parental advisory, not for kids. Okay. Moonshine, number 2, werewolves and alcohol. Kilroy Kill, number 4. Okay. Black Panther, number 8. The story's finally starting to go somewhere. And Die Kitty, number 2. For people who don't know, this is a comic by Dan Parent. Dan Parent was a former Archie comics artist, and this comic kind of the main character is kind of this Sabrina the Teenage Witch type character, and the comic kind of satirizes Archie comics, and this is obviously a parody of old Harvey comics and the whole kind of reboot nature of what's going on with Archie and what's going on with Marvel and DC and stuff like that. So I went and it's kind of spoofing the kind of kid and teen genre of comics as well as spoofing the comic book industry as well. So, okay, so that's it. I got to thank you all very much for watching my video, and you have a great day. Oh, one other thing. I wanted to say thanks to everybody who watched my last last topic video I did was one about race in comics. It really wasn't so much about racist comics. It was comparing certain characters, minority characters, or I should say black male characters that were coming out from Marvel. And I just want to thank everybody that watched it and left a comment or whatever. I kind of think sometimes I think I should do more topic type videos, and then sometimes I think maybe I shouldn't. Sometimes the controversies that go on in the comics industries, they're really kind of, they seem important that week, and then next week it's like, whatever. So I really don't want to make a video every time somebody's upset about some cover or whatever. But at the same time, maybe it'd be interesting that, just to talk about different aspects of things in the comics or whatever, whether it's taking on topics of sex or religion or politics or certain artists or whatever. So sometimes I get ideas for things and I really don't think I can really pull them off in a video. And sometimes a lot of times I just simply don't have the time or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, I just want to say a lot of times it seems like when I do stuff like that, people are usually responsive to those. So like I said, I just want to say thanks to everybody who watched it and left a comment. And, thanks for all your support. I really do appreciate it. So thank you.